show you something I got this weekend when I was out in the woods. I was looking for morels. They're out this time of year where I live, but didn't find any of those. Didn't find any ramps, which I was also looking for, but I did find these. They're called Pheasant Back or Dryad Mushrooms. They're a little different, but kind of go more into that when I change the camera angle around. But yeah, this time of year, you can find a bunch of stuff out in the woods. The morels kind of are the start of the foraging season. From what I understand, I'm sure there's probably some stuff that's out before them, maybe, but not so much in this area. So get the camera turned around and I'll show you what I got. Okay, so these are Dryad Saddles, or Pheasant Back, as I know them. But can kind of see where they got their name, the Pheasant Back at least. They come in a variety of sizes. This is one of the smaller ones I found. And then this one's slightly larger. I actually found one that was a lot larger than this one last year. I weighed it and it was about 3 pounds. So, don't know quite how many pounds I have for this year. It doesn't really matter. For what all I'm gonna do with them, but one thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing mushroom hunting is you want to make sure that you know what you're looking for. You want to know what it looks like. You want to know where you can find it, because mushrooms, there are a lot of mimics, and the mimics may be poisonous, or you could get very sick from them, or worse. So you want to make sure you know what you're looking for. I recommend going out with somebody that does know what they're looking for. If you don't have access to that, research. There are books out there that you can read. There are Facebook groups that you can go on to double check. And I would recommend, watching those. If you do anything on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, watch as much of that stuff as you can get your hands on. So when you actually come across kind of stuff, you know what to expect. But for the Pheasants Back, they always have this pattern. They come out of the sides of logs, so there's mushrooms that'll grow off of trees, and then some that'll come up out of the ground. And then for this one, let's see if I can. Haven't quite got these cleaned yet, but I don't know if you can see very well. Here we go. So you can see it's got a bunch of little bumps and stuff down here, instead of, you'll see some mushrooms from the store, they have gills that come out from the stem. These have little pockets. I think it's a polypore, if I'm pronouncing that right. The smaller ones are going to be a lot more tender than the larger ones, because the larger ones have had more time to build structure and all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the smaller ones like this. I'm going to eat them. I'm just going to fry them up with some butter and stuff. I might film that. I haven't decided yet. But these big ones, I've got this one, and then I've got this one. I've got another one that's about this size. Yeah, what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to slice them up and throw them in my dehydrator. And from there I'll use them for, making soup broth, or, once you dehydrate these, they get very, very tough, and they don't really come back from it. You can't rehydrate them like you can some stuff. So this is going to be used for you know, as a flavoring, or maybe I could grind it up and incorporate it into a few things that way. But yeah, I'm gonna get started on that. I'm gonna adjust the camera just a little bit, and we'll go from there. To clean these, because they have been outside, you want to use a damp paper towel. You don't want it wet, and you definitely don't want to wash these under water, because they will start to get slimy and start to break down. So just a very barely damp paper towel is all you're really going to need. And then from here, you're just going to do a quick wipe down. The top's really not going to be too bad. You kind of want to work on getting the edges. See, that's where all the gunk is. Reposition my paper towel and my mushroom. Yeah, these have been in the fridge for a little longer than they probably should have, but I was busy. But yeah, just give them a good wipe down. These pieces that aren't coming off are pieces of the mushroom. They're just from the edge. Yeah, like that. So, and about so much of this is just transfer from one mushroom to the other in the bag. So we got that. Okay. And then from there, I'm going to flip this back around. And see, this is where it came out of the tree, and right here, well, it might be easier to see underneath. So this area right here is going to be very, very tough, and then it's going to get more tender the farther out you go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to slice this into as even a pieces as I can, because when you're dehydrating stuff, you want to keep it as uniform as you can. That way everything dries at about the same pace, and you get a more consistent result. So how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to do it in strips. I don't know, that'd be what, 1/4 inch thick maybe? Something like that. The thickness is going to vary just because of how far, depending on how far away I am from the inside of or the stem of the mushroom. So, and length, I'm just going to kind of play by ear, because some of these are going to be a lot longer than the others. Something like these two I'll probably cut in half, whereas, you know, the stuff on the end maybe not so much. But you can kind of tell which pieces are tender and which aren't by how easy your knife goes through them. So if you only find a couple of these, you might want to, you know, cut the outer rim of it off, because that'll be the more tender part of it. And then the thicker, tougher part that's on the inside, you might want to dehydrate like I'm going to do. Okay, I've gotten down to the stem. There's a little bit left I can probably, yep. So I've gotten down to the stem. I'm just going to get rid of this piece because it's a little too tough to do much with. Can't really, if you try cooking it, you're gonna chew on it forever. It lasts longer than gum. And for dehydrating, I'm gonna have enough for between all these mushrooms that it's really not gonna matter. So that's gonna get set aside. You could probably compost it. If you're really talented, you could probably grow some mycelium off of it, but I'm not too worried about it. They're a fairly common mushroom to find out in the woods from my observations, but so what I'm doing now is making sure everything's about the same thickness. So these ones that were on the outside I'm not going to worry about too much, but some of these that were closer to the middle, that one's probably alright. Yeah, these are good. So yeah, you just want to make sure that everything's about the same size, as close as you can manage. So I'm going to get cracking on the rest of these, and I'll put them in the dehydrator, and I'll show you when I get back. One thing I did forget to mention, another good way to ID these as pheasant backs or Dryad Saddles, it's the same mushroom, is flip these upside down and put it up to your nose, and they should smell like a melon, like maybe a watermelon or like a cantaloupe or something. They kind of have that melon smell to them. They don't taste like it, but it is something that I believe is unique to these, and kind of throws you off. You get to smell a mushroom and it smells like a fruit. So just a fun fact. Okay, so as you can see, I got this filled up. The 3 biggest mushrooms actually filled up my entire dehydrator, which I wasn't quite expecting, but it's a nice surprise. Got all those. Tried to keep them about the same size, thickness-wise. Some of them are longer than others. But yeah, these will go on probably a lower temperature overnight. I'm thinking probably like anywhere between 105 and 135 degrees, which isn't terribly high for dehydrating. If you're doing stuff with meat, it's usually a lot higher. But yeah, I'm going to put these on overnight, and in the morning I think I'm going to cook up, at least in the afternoon maybe, I'm going to try to cook up some of the smaller ones and show you how that's done. Okay, so this is the next day. It's about 12 hours after I turned this on. As you can see, the mushrooms lost a lot of water, and they're pretty brittle. I don't expect them to stay like that because a lot of dehydrated stuff will start picking up moisture from the air, so they won't be, I'll just show you, like, they snap in half pretty easy. But yeah, so I got all these dried up, and it's about lunchtime, so I'm going to get this stuff put up, and get everything ready to cook the rest of the mushrooms. Okay, first we want to prep up our batter. I'm going to be doing something that's very similar to a tempura batter. I found this recipe on, I think it was Food Network's website, so if you want to check it out. It's 2 cups of flour, just regular all-purpose flour, 2 to 2 1/4 cups of cold seltzer water, or club soda, same stuff, and then a half a teaspoon of the salt. I'm using kosher salt. It didn't really specify what type of salt you would really need. So I'm going to add all this together. And when you add the seltzer water to the flour, it's going to want to bubble up, so make sure that you have a appropriate sized container for all this. Okay, before we start cutting up the mushrooms and battering them, I want to get a skillet going with some oil in it. I'm just using regular vegetable oil. You can use whatever you have available to you. Good amount in there. I'm going to turn it to a little past medium, nothing too crazy. So now that I got that going, I'll turn the camera back around and we'll get our mushrooms going. Okay, I decided not to make you guys watch me cut mushrooms up again. So I've got my mushrooms right over here. They're all about the same size, pretty close. Nothing too crazy. And then, I don't know if you guys can see it, right there's my batter, the tempura batter. It's ready to go. I've got the fork in there to kind of toss things around and move the mushrooms into the skillet. And then over here I've got my skillet, and a little farther over I've got my paper towel covered plate. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a couple of these just so you guys can see. Really hope you can see this. Going to throw them in here, and then I'm going to just push them down into the batter, kind of give them a little bit of a stir. Make sure they're good and incorporated. Get a nice coat on them. And then from here, I'm gonna let it drip off a little bit, and then into the oil. And I've got a pretty big skillet here, so I can load this up, so it shouldn't take me too long. But yeah, that's all there is to it, and just cook them till they're golden brown, or whatever color you deem the tastiest. So I'm going to get more of these going, and I will show you the end result. Okay, so this is the final product. There's a couple of them that didn't get cooked enough, and some of them got a little too cooked, but that's okay. There's a few of them missing because I already dug into them, but they turned out pretty good. So, hope you enjoyed it.